Hi everybody, welcome to the OAG RC. I'm Craig. Thank you very much for checking out my channel today. I am going to talk you through my DT03. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I really like this chassis, and it's been part of my collection now for getting on close to 5 years. And I thought I'd do a bit of a long-term review of the DT03 because I don't see many people going back to their old RCs and saying, I've run this for 5 years now and here's what I really think of it. And I thought it'd be really interesting to do that with this particular chassis because it's still available and people still love it and people still buy them, people still build them. So what is it about the DT03 that makes it so great? Now, for me, the first thing that makes the DT03 awesome is the fact that you can really build it quite simply. Mine's hopped up a little bit and we'll come on to that in a minute. But essentially, you've got a two-part chassis underneath there. And if I just turn it over, you can see two parts just basically screw together. You build up the front end of the car up here. This is the front bulkhead and you bolt that to the front of the car. You build up the rear gearbox and you bolt that to the rear part of the car. You make the shocks, you put the wheels on, spray paint the body, albeit rather poorly as you'll see here, and I'll come to that in a minute, and you're ready to rock and roll. And it's a really nice simple car to build and maintain. And because it's rear wheel drive and two wheel drive, it's really fun because the back end steps out in the gravel and the loose stuff, and it's quite an entertaining drive. I really enjoy driving this car. Compared to some of its other buggies at this entry level, this has got a longer wheelbase, which actually makes it more stable under speed. So if you're driving this car fast, the long wheelbase does help. So if you're in an open car park or something like that, or a field, you'll find that this one's quite a stable car to drive and put some extra power through it and have some fun. A little bit harder to drive around the bends though. Mine's got this cracked chipped paint. That's because I used the wrong type of paint. I used the Tamiya TS paint range rather than the polycarbonate PS paint when I put this on. It was a rookie mistake. One of the first, well, it's actually the first RC car I ever built all on my own. So I made that mistake, but I've kind of just left it because it's an homage to my RC history and I don't want to do it any better because I love this car and I will always love this car, and I like the fact that it's got all the beat up paintwork on it. I talked about hop-ups a minute ago, and this car has had some additional hop-ups. You'll see with the way that the wheels spin that it's got ball bearings in the front, race bearings in the front, which just means that it's frictionless or almost frictionless. So those wheels will spin for quite a long time. They're also present in the gearbox at the back as well to give it some extra life. I've not had a problem with the gearbox in this car. I've driven it quite a lot. I've not had a problem with the front bearings or any of the front suspension points. I did swap out the plastic shock stays that came with the car with these carbon ones that were a hop-up at the time. I've heard that these can also be brittle and they can break if you're going fast and you crash a car, you're going to break some things. But I found them to be a lot more reliable than the plastic parts that would have been on there before, and it has certainly protected a weak point because you can see these are they stick out quite high above the top of the buggy. So if you roll it or flip it, they're going to get caught on things and potentially break off. So they've been great. These dampers, these dampers here, are upgrades that came in the box. They're CVA Tamiya dampers. They're oil filled, and they really do the job. They're really quite good. I've not had any problems with these leaking at all. Some people do report they have these leak. You should check them from time to time and clean them out and put some fresh oil in. I've not actually done these with these, and they're still working reasonably well at the moment, touch wood. They're all going okay. Another hop-up that came with the buggy were these adjustable top arms here. So that allows you to alter the camber on the wheel, which is pretty useful when you're setting up the car. And the steering arms here are also adjustable, which allows you to make some adjustments to the way that the wheels are angled at the front. All pretty cool. These arms are really thick as well. I have seen these on other models break, and they break at the knuckles or they break at these points here where it joins the chassis. It is going to be a weak spot if you're running this around. There's no front bumper to protect these buggies. In fact, most modern buggies don't have a front bumper, so there's nothing at the front here to stop these wheels catching on things and being sheared off, especially if you're hitting curbs or tree roots and things like that. They can be quite delicate, but I've not had a problem with any of those break. I have broken them on other models, but not on this one. It seems to be made from really good plastics and really tough. I have seen people break the underside, the chassis plate, crack this, landing hard, you know, jumping over something on a skate park maybe and hitting it on the bottom and breaking this. But I've found this to be quite tough. And actually, for an RC car, there's not that many scrapes and scratches on the back of there. You can see I've got some rear wear at the back of these arms and certainly the back of here where the buggy slaps down when you jump it. This has been mainly on my backyard track, but we did blast it about at the start on some some gravel tracks and some fields, jumping over tree roots and stuff, but it's all held up reasonably well. If you look at the back of the car, you've seen the stamper stays. This is the gearbox here. I've got no damage to the gearbox, which is great. I've got a Tamiya Sport Tune motor in there, so that's a hotter motor than what you get in the kit. And it's held up fine. It does get a bit hot from time to time. Some people cut this back open and let some more air get to the motor. I've not had the need to do that yet. I did put some other hop-ups on the back of here. I had some sway bars at the back, which gives some more stability to the drive. But I found that they weren't really doing anything, and I found the car was easier to drive when I took them off. So I left mine off for my driving capabilities. I didn't felt that I needed them. There's no adjustable arms at the back, only at the front, and I don't really think you need it at the back here. And there's nice thick, you can see the nice thick arms at the top, at the bottom. Done me well. The other thing that's really interesting with this model, you see how thick those drive bones are at the back, the dog bones here? They're really thick, and I think you'd really find those hard to buckle or break. But they are plastic, and it is worth bearing in mind if you're putting some big power through the back of here. That could well be a problem. One of the areas you do have to be careful when taking the body out, this bit across here is quite thin, and it goes in between the shock towers there. You do have to be careful when you're picking it up and pulling it out that you don't bend it. So this is the inside of that particular chassis. If I turn it outside so you can see, the front here, I did get a hop up there. I got a an alloy servo mount in there. I really got that because it was there and it was available. I don't think you necessarily need it, but I've not had any problems or any issues at all. You'll notice I've got some weights in the front of my buggy, and there's also some weights on the side. The front end on this can be quite loose, and it can, if you're out on the rough stuff, on the dirt and stuff, it will oversteer. But when you're driving it on grass or a grippier circuit, it has the tendency to understeer. So putting some weight in the front end helped with that a little bit when I was driving it around the track. This was a buggy that I spent more time finessing and fine-tuning, because right at the early on, I only had this and one or two other cars. So I spent an awful lot of time playing around with it and wanting to get it set up just right. If I'm honest, I haven't done that with all of my cars since, but I certainly did with this one. And it actually paid back quite a bit, actually, because I've really been able to tune this in and enjoy the way it drives. The one frustrating thing is there's not a lot of room in here for your electronics. They all sit at the back here up on this high piece. And that can, as you've seen on mine, rub against the body. So the body roof becomes sort of a bit messed up. I mean, my paint wasn't great anyway, but even with a few layers of paint on there, that potentially would rub with the electronics being towards the top, because it is quite tight inside the body. The battery goes in there. I've got nickel metal hydride batteries like this one, and they fit in there absolutely perfectly. But if you were running a lipo pack in there, a shorty lipo pack, bouncing around all over the place, and there's no way that you can, other than putting some sponge or something in there, stop that from happening. But I suppose a couple of bits of sponge in there and you could be able to reposition the battery pack maybe more towards the front to help with that weight distribution. There's no driver figure in this one, which is pretty much a shame because it's quite iconic to have driver figures in RCs, but there's not one in this particular one. I have not had any particular issues with this model at all, and I found it to be a really great entry point for people who are looking to get into RC. Mainly because there's plenty of stuff you can do with it and have fun with it. It can accept some reasonable power in the back of that gearbox because it is pretty much bulletproof. And you can get somebody hooked into this hobby, have a ton of fun for a really reasonable price. I think I got this, and I'm going back a few years now, I got this for about £109, which included the ESC that you see up here and a torque-tuned motor, as well as the CVA shocks and the adjustable arms. I've got a feeling that these went down as low as about £80. So all you needed to do for that is get your servo, get your battery, get your receiver and your transmitter, and you were off and running and playing RC. A really good place for people to start, and one of my favourite entry-level buggies that I have. Compared to the DT02, which is Tamiya's other two-wheel drive chassis at this price point, I prefer the DT02 round my track. But I always have a softer spot for this particular model in the collection than the DT02. And it's really strange because every time I drive the DT02, it's an easier drive. This is more challenging, but when I get this right, it drives faster. And I like that. I like the fact that it is a more challenging drive. So if you're new to the hobby, not sure about RC, not sure it's going to be for you, DT02 might be better. DT03, more challenging drive, more rewarding in the long term, and certainly a different design. It's not a sort of a tub chassis. It's one that you bolt together, which is a little bit more interesting. This has been recently replaced with the DT04, which is Tamiya's latest buggy chassis, entry-level buggy chassis. It has a few more toys on it than this particular model. It has a steering system that's a bow crank, and it's got moulded plastic bodywork that fits in. It's got like almost like a cockpit that goes on top of the driver figure. It looks fun. It looks a lot more fun. It has an adjustable wheel length, so you can have it in this sort of longer wheelbase, but also the slightly shorter one that comes in the DT02. So Tamiya have really moved this type of chassis on. But for me, this was the first RC car I built when getting back into the hobby. It was the first RC car I ever built on my own because my dad used to build them back in the day. And I love it, absolutely love it. And it's done me really well over the last 5 years. And I hope it gives me 5 more and many, many more after that. The other good thing about this model is you can really easily get spare parts for it. So the longevity of it should be really great because there'll be an abundance of spare parts for this model for years to come. There you go. I hope that was helpful if you were looking for a DT03. And I hope it gave some of you an insight into the sort of stuff that you can do with these buggies. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this. And I'll see you all soon on the OAG RC. Bye for now.